Hi, everybody. Today I want to talk a little bit about your discussion for this week. So before you even go into the discussion this week, you should go ahead and do the the worksheet on experimentation, and it's in your content. It's before the discussion. It's also embedded here. So I've downloaded that, and here is what that looks like. And so what you're going to do is you're going to just read through these example experiments, and you're going to come up with the operational definitions for the independent variable and the dependent variable. So you need to, with the operational definitions, you need to say how you're going to measure and manipulate the independent variable and how you're measuring the dependent variable. So on this first one, an educational psychologist is studying the effectiveness of a special program for teen parents. The program provides education and support related to parenting skills and career goals. He wants to know whether participants' school performance and psychological health will improve. So what you need to do is talk about, so your independent variable in this one, and I'll just go ahead and give you this one. The independent variable would be the special program for teen parents. So you're going to have some teen parents who get the program, some teen parents who either get no program or get some other program that has been used in the past. Then you had to operationally define the program. So how long is the program going to last? What days are you going to offer it on? How many hours are you going to give it? What exactly does it include? So on and so forth. So that if I was reading your study, I could actually replicate it. Okay? And then my dependent in this one would, of course, be the participant's school performance and psychological health. So now I would have to go in and operationally define how I am going to measure school performance. If it's just GPA, then that's easy. I just put GPA. Then how do I measure psychological health? How do I tell whether psychological health is improved? So you need to come up with how you would actually measure that. And you need to do that for each one of these. So there are several of them. You first identify the independent and dependent, and then you operationally define it. Okay, after you've completed that, then we'll go back to the discussion. So for the worksheet, you'll identify the independent and dependent, operationally define, operational definitions define, and I put the quote from your textbook in there. And once you've completed the worksheet, pick one of the examples. So pick one of those. If you were going to do the school program for teen parents, you would pick that example and you would actually design a specific experiment to test the hypothesis. So you would actually have to tell me how you would run this particular experiment. So that would be details on that one in particular. The other ones that you're just answering on the worksheet, you just need to give examples of how you might measure the independent and the dependent with your operational definitions. And here, for the one that you actually choose, I want you to go into great detail about how you would actually run it. How many hours would teen parents be exposed to the program? What would the program include? Would it be online? Would it be in person? So on, so on, so forth. So identify all of that, and then talk about what some potential confounding variables are. So would the age of the parent have an impact? Would the gender have an impact? Is it, since we said teen parents, are you going to include men and women or just women? And if only women, why? Would the gender be some confounding variable that you don't want to include? What about age? Is it different for a 14-year-old than it is for an 18-year-old? So on, so on, so forth. So identify confounding variables. Tell me who your experimental group is, who your control group or groups are. Identify how you're going to recruit the subjects, how you're going to assign them to the experimental groups or the control group, and then any ethical concerns that you may have that as you're running this. And that one that we discussed would be really, particularly the hard part I think about that would be how are you going to measure psychological well-being and whether or not their psychological well-being has improved? Then the second part of your original post deals with the correlation. So first you're going to attach the entire worksheet with your operational definitions and your identification of the independent-dependent. Then you're going to go into a very detailed example with one of those specific hypotheses. So you're going to describe your methods and how you would do the whole thing. And then for the next part, you're going to look at correlation. And I want you to give 2 examples of a positive correlation and 2 examples of negative correlations. And I want you to generate your own examples. Don't use ones that are from the textbook or from your quizzes, but try and create your own after you've read and listen to. Please listen to. I've posted on experimentation and correlation. So please watch those videos. Those will help you with both parts of this discussion, I think. But after you've identified 2 positives and 2 negatives, then I want you to describe how a third factor may be creating the relationship between those 2 variables. So research has shown that eating oatmeal for breakfast and heart disease are positively correlated. So the more you eat oatmeal, the more likely you are to report that you're suffering from heart disease. Why might there be a positive correlation? Is it cause and effect? Oatmeal is causing heart disease? And if so, then we should stop, right? No one should ever eat oatmeal again. But we know that oatmeal is actually healthy. So what could the third factor be in there? And what they found is that the third factor is age. The older a person is, the more likely they are to have heart disease and the more likely they are to eat oatmeal. So a third factor. So describe a third factor that may be creating the relationship. Describe how the relationship could be going the opposite way. Maybe it's actually that people who know they have heart disease are eating more oatmeal rather than oatmeal, heart disease. It could be going the other way if there was actually cause and effect. This is one of my pet peeves, is people assuming cause and effect from correlational research. So I really, really, really want you to understand that those 2 do not equate. Correlation does not give cause and effect. It just shows relationship. And I've got some other examples there. So please make sure to describe other things that might be impacting the correlation and why the correlation is positive or negative, for both of your examples, for positive and both for negative. And then last, on your replies to your classmates' original posts, check the accuracy of their worksheet, make suggestions for the operational definitions that they created, make comments and suggestions about the experiment and the correlation they described in their post. Are their correlations really positive, the ones that they identified as positive, and the negatives really negative? Do they identify the independent and dependent correctly? What was really good and really effective and you would be able to replicate because they gave so much detail? Where do they need more detail? And then look at their experiment and say how you might have done that differently. And it would be particularly interesting if someone else in your group picks the same example that you did. Did you come up with the identical operational definitions? Probably not. And so does that mean one of them is better or worse than the other? Or should we be using combining experiments with lots of different ways to operationally define something? So look at other things that you think might explain the correlation as well, and what ideas do you have about how to conduct the experiment differently. And then, of course, please take a look at references and make sure that you look at their APA style. And I spent a lot of time giving feedback on that last week, so I hope it's more clear. And so please give your classmates feedback on that. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Okay, have a wonderful day.